Om Jnanatimandasya Jananjana Shalaka Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chichen Chaitanyamanovistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamrupgadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Shri Uda Padakamalam Shri Vaishnavam Sa Shilpam Jagajatam Saganaganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabdutam Parijan Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganalita Shifishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sutadevi Pranamama Haripriye Pankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sindhavesha Padnam Pavanvyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This morning we will discuss the last section of chapter 11. So we have heard Arjun's fearful prayers, and Krishna will be merciful, show again his four-armed form, and then his two-armed form, his original form, his very beautiful form. And then Krishna will say, as I stand here before you in this two-armed form, that one can understand me only by unalloyed devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, and by engagement in devotional service. And at the end of the chapter, Krishna in the last verse will explicitly mention some very important points for advancing towards pure devotional service. One must do Krishna karma, work for Krishna, and always have Krishna the goal of whatever one does, whatever acts one does. And then one should associate with devotees. And be friendly to everyone means preaching. So now we will go to this last section, starting with text 45. 45. Adrishva Purvam, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Adrishta Purvam Rishito Smidristva. Vayena Sapapyati Tammanome. Tadeva Medakshaya Deva Upam. Pashida Devesha Jagannivasa. Translation. After seeing this universal form, which I've never seen before, I'm gladdened. But at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. There's too much echo in the... And then my recording is spoiled. That's not good. So after seeing this universal form, which I've never seen before, I'm gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, or Lord of Lords, or abode of the universe. That so Arjuna is asking Krishna, please show me again your two-armed form, then so that I can be fearful. So that I can get out of this fearful condition and be peaceful again. There's a quote of Prabhupada, different quotes. There are 3, 4. We'll read the short ones. Arjuna, as a pure devotee of the Lord, never previously saw the contemplated universal form of the Lord, the Vishvarup. But when he did see it, his curiosity was satisfied. But he was not happy to see such a form of the Lord because of his attachment as a pure devotee. He was afraid to see the gigantic form of the Lord. Therefore he prayed to the Lord to assume his four-armed Narayan or Krishna form, which alone could please Arjuna. Usually the features shown in the material world have no existence in the Vaikuntha planets, and thus they are not accepted by the pure devotees. So they exist only in the material world. So what the pure devotees worship from the very beginning are the eternal forms of the Lord existing on the Vaikuntha planets. The non-devotee impersonalists imagine the material forms of the Lord, and ultimately they merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, whereas the pure devotees of the Lord are worshippers of the Lord, both in the beginning and also in the perfect stage of eternal salvation. The worship of the pure devotee never ends, Bhagavad Gita 9:14. 9:14, Satatam Kirtyantamam. Whereas the worship of the impersonalist ends after attainment of salvation, when he merges into the impersonal form of the Lord. That here, 45, another, this is from the commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.35. The Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. Purport. For the devotees, his factual form is disclosed, and for the non-devotees, he appears like Kala Rupa. This form is not at all pleasing to the Asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. This form of Kala Rupa is not pleasing to the Asuras. That, good. Text 46. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of 45, this in the middle, this universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planet, he has his transcendental form before hands as Narayan. And at the end, according to the different hands, these four things are held in the Narayanas, are variously named. So you have the four hands of Lord Vishnu, you have the chakra, the gada, the lotus, and the conch. lotus and the conch are meant for his devotees, the gada and the chakra for the demons. But they are in a certain sequence, and you have according when the sequence changes, it's another form of Narayan. That by that experts who know all these sequences can see which form of Narayan it is. Interesting. 46. Kiritinim gautinam sakrahastam ichami tvam drashtum aham tateva teneva rupena chaturbhujana sahasrabho bhava vishvamukti. O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see that form. So, in the purple in the middle. But Arjuna knew that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, assuming his temporary universal form. Is now asking to see the form of Narayan, a spiritual form. This establishes without any doubt the statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and all features originate from him. Otherwise, he could not show. Yes. One who knows Krishna becomes free at once of the contamination of the material world. So Arjuna, that's an important point, that if someone asks you how does this pastime of Krishna showing the Vishvarup, how does it show that he is the original personality of Godhead from which all other forms of Godhead emanate? It's in other words, Krishna is not an avatar, is avatari, is the source of all avatars. That the answer is that Arjuna's request to see Krishna's four-armed form proves that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and that all features originate from him. That 47. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Pashanena Tavarjanidam Rupam Param Darshitamatma Yogan Teyo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam Yamit Vatangena Dantrishtapuvam. The Supreme Personality of God has said, my dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you my internal potency, this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Now, that's interesting. In the purport. This form was manifested by Krishna through his internal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. A little further. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. So who could see it? Arjuna could see it. We have heard the demigods could see it because they became fearful. And here they said, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form, that by Krishna's mercy, disciplic devotees. That, Someone has commented that this form was shown to Duryodhana also when Krishna went to Duryodhana to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhana did not accept the peace offer, but at that time Krishna manifested some of his universal forms. But those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. Because Krishna said to Arjuna, no one has seen this before. So it is clearly said that no one had ever seen this form before. That good. 49. Na Veda Chakya Dhyayane Nadane Snashakayabir Natapobir Ukrai Avam Rupa Sakyam Eloke Tastum Tvadayena Karupa Viram. O best of the Kauravas, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mind, for neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifice, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world. So these are not the ways to see Krishna. That, yeah. Nor the way to see the universal form. That this is 48. I read a few sentences here and there. I cannot locate it in the screen. It's impossible. We would be busy for a long time. And now I read it. It's a few seconds. We can go on. It is stated in the Vedic scripture that those who are devotees of the Lord of Lord Vishnu are demigods. Vishnu Bhaktus Mitrodeva. Further, it is not possible to decry Krishna and at the same time have divine vision. So that's not possible. That impersonators say Krishna does not exist and then they want to see the universal form. Not possible. One cannot have the divine vision without becoming divine or becoming a devotee. But one cannot be divine without being a pure devotee of Krishna. And then further, near the end. And the voluntary acceptance of some bodily pain is called tapasya. So one can perform all these, can accept bodily penances, give charity, study the Vedas, etc. But unless he is a devotee like Arjuna, it's not possible to see that universal form. So the second last verse in the purport. So one first of all has to become a pure devotee of Krishna. Then he can claim that he can show the universal form of what he has seen. Hare Krishna. That's 48. So what's the message here? Nobody can see God by one's personal endeavor. Not possible. Not by a physical endeavor or mental endeavor. Only a pure devotee can have such vision. 49. Mate vyatama savimukha bhavam tristva rupam gauramidrin mamedam vyapeta vipritapana punastvam tadevame rupamimam papasya. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. That 9, the purport, the third sentence. When the son of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty they should be killed. Krishna showed this universal form to Arjuna just to show that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. And that was horrible to see, of course. Then at the end, the last sentence, either a devotee wants to offer his respectful worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna's beautiful two-armed form is attractive to everyone. But only we will, So Krishna will show again his two-armed form in the next verse. What we learn from this verse is that a devotee is not very interested in seeing the universal form, because he cannot reciprocate with the Lord in loving feelings and worship in that form. It's not possible, no reciprocation. So devotee is not interested in seeing this form. 50. Now we go back to Sanjaya, who speaks to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya uvacha ityarjunam vasudevastatuktva safakam rupam darshayamasi bhuya asvasayamasa sabitamenam utva punasamya vapur mahatma. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. He showed his two-armed, attractive form. So it is said in a purport, second line, third line, the second line, second sentence. Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in the four-armed form, but since Krishna asked to see this four-armed form, Krishna showed him. Further, the devotee, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again the beautiful form of Krishna. And at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Veloshanana. Only a devotee whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Krishna. Yes, 51. Now 51. Now, yeah. Arjuna vacha tristvedam manusham rupam tava samyam janardana idanim asmi samvrita sasita prakatim gata. We are going back to the usual meter of the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "O Janardhan, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind and I am restored to my original nature." That's so Krishna, certainly by showing his two-armed form and his four-armed form and his universal form, he proved that he is not an ordinary person. The purport that Srila Prabhupada confirms is in the middle. So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and who misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman who is within Krishna speaking, is doing the greatest injustice. At the end of the purport, the original verses of Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require the lamplight from foolish commentators. Okay. Text 52. 53. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarsham idam rupam dristavanāsim yanmama devayapyasya rupasya nityam darshana kankshina. Supreme Personality of God said, my dear Arjun, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. And also the next verse. Nam videna tapasana danena nacheyaya sakyaivam vido drastam dristavanasmi manyata. This form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing penances, nor by charity, nor by means. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. So I read here and there and part of the purport. Krishna, that's the end of the first paragraph. Krishna in his two-armed form is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. The next paragraph. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher, but he's an ordinary man. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from the impersonal feature, he assumed the personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme. Further. But the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. Krishna is covered by the yoga, Maya potency. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. For one is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The last line of the purport. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form of Yamasunda. The last purport in the next purport in the middle. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualification, Krishna is not possible to understand. Last sentence, Krishna can be understood only through devotional service, and that's now explained in verse 54 and 55. 54 and 55 are the most significant verses and purports of the chapter, which we now will read. Bhaktya pananyaya sakya evam vido yuna kyatam rasa tatvena pravishtum sa parantapa. My dear Arjun, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way you can enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So, in Krishna says, I can only be understood by pure devotional service, as I'm standing before. That undivided devotional service. The purport. First paragraph, few lines down. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature. That there are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulative principles described in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. For example, To undergo serious penances, one may observe fasting on Janmashtami, the day on which Krishna appeared, and the 2 days of Ekadashi. That charity should be given to devotees of Krishna who are engaged in devotional service to spread Krishna philosophy. And if one worships as prescribed in the temple, that is a chance to progress by offering worship and respect to the personality of Godhead. For the beginners in devotional service to the Lord, the temple worship is essential. For one who has unflinching devotion to the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master, in whom he has unflinching faith, he can see the personality of Godhead by revelation. One cannot understand him by mental speculation. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible even to begin to understand Krishna. So unless one takes shelter of a spiritual master, one cannot even begin to understand Krishna. The next paragraph. That form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjuna, so that in the future, when one represents himself as an incarnation of people, people can ask to see his universal form. Further, this indicates that the four-handed forms and other forms mentioned in the Vedic literature are all emanations of the two original handed form. And further, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has eternal bliss and knowledge, is the source of all forms of Vishnu. And then you have the quotation of the Brahma Samhita Ishvara Paramakrishna Sakshinanda Viha Anadhyada Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. Near the end of the purport. Therefore, the universal form which Krishna showed to Arjuna is not the original form of God. The original is the Krishna form. The universal form, with its thousands and thousands of heads and hands, is manifest just to draw the attention to those who have no love for God. It is not God's original form. The Supreme Godhead exchanges transcendental love in his original form of Krishna. Last sentence. This form may seem wonderful to persons who are involved in elevating themselves by fruitive activities, but to persons who are engaged in devotional service, the two-handed form of the Lord is most dear. So essential is Krishna can be understood by pure devotional service, but one cannot even begin to understand Krishna when one does not take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So, and Krishna manifests this universal form. Why? For those who have no love for God, to attract him. But Krishna reveals himself only to his unalloyed pure devotees who are performing devotional service under the guidance of pure devotees, the spiritual master. And now in text 55, that 55, Krishna will give the method how to come to unalloyed devotional service. In one verse, but first there is a quote of Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada said, you have to submit, you have to render transcendental loving service. That is the way. Bhaktastvananyaya means without any adulteration. What is adulteration? No, I love God for some material benefit. That is adulteration. I love God to become one with Him. That is adulteration. This adulteration in devotional service will not help you. Unadulterated. Tvananyaya. That is required. And now we will hear about the process to become, the process. And there are a number of points in this verse. Mat karma krit. One should work for Krishna. While mat paramo, one should consider him the goal of one's life. Mat paramo. Mat bhakta sangavarchita. And you should take association of devotees. Nirvara sarvabhutesu. You should be non-envious and the well-wisher of all other living entities. That's preaching. So, mat karma kin mat paramo mat bhakta sangavarchita nirvara sarvabhuteshu nasamam iti pandava. My dear Arjun, he who engaged in pure devotion service free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, who is friendly to every living entity, seldom comes to me. So 4 things. Well, I think so. Engaging in pure devotion service. Free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation. No material desires. Give up. Working for Krishna is 3. 4. Making him the goal of one's life. And 5 is friendly to every living entity. A 5-point program Krishna gives us. That, of course, this is very practical. Therefore, there are three pages and a bit of purport by Srila Prabhupada. The first paragraph. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The essence of Bhagavad Gita. It says this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. I think in verse 330. 330 is he wrote in a purport. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Thus, Mahi Sarvani Karmani Sanyasyatma Sitsa Nirasir Nirmamo Bhutva Yutyasva Vyatashma. Therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, in full knowledge of me, without desiring for profit, with no claims of proprietorship, and free from lethargy fighting. That's working for Krishna. And here, this verse starts with Mat Karma Krit, that's also working for Krishna. The Prabhupada writes, this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to teach how one can go back to Godhead. This is clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in spiritual activity. So what we have to do, Krishna says, that you have to know who Krishna is, who we are, and understand our relationship, and engage in that relationship, which is devotional service, then go back to Godhead. That's our process. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. So either through the dovetailing process or direct service to Krishna. So no work should be done by man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. So we must always do Krishna karma. So one should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna. Further, near the end, these are some of the examples of how we can engage in working for Krishna. The word Mat Parama refers to one who considers the associates of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. So, Mat Parama. We want to associate the association of Krishna in the spiritual world. But Mat Karma, right? Working for Krishna. Why? We want to become an associate of Krishna in the spiritual world. So it's only attached to being transferred to the spiritual sky. We want to get out of it. And someone may say, we are all escapists. Yes, we are escapists. We don't want to be in this material world. We want to get out. We have something better. That the term Sarga Varchita is very significant. One should disassociate himself of persons who are against Krishna. Against that. Is that easy? Disassociating oneself from persons who are against Krishna? Is that easy to do? Silence. That you don't have any problem with that. No, all your families are favorable to Krishna consciousness. Oh, nice. I was in another situation. They throw me out. That I had a big family. Nobody wanted me to see me when I became a devotee of Krishna. Finished. Last 35 years, no contact. And I'm so happy. But you don't have that problem. No. That you are from Indian background, most of you, then you don't have that problem so much. But in the West, if you just stop eating meat, you break with your family. Finished. You cannot eat together anymore. Very difficult. Very difficult. But yeah, we must do it. That's what Krishna says. One should, and Prabhupada, one should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. The pure form of devotional service is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu's volumes. Against this verse, Anya Bilasa Sunyam Jnana Kamartanapam Anukulena Krishna Shilam Bhakti Uttama. In this verse, Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activity and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna that is called pure devotional service. So one should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. That's the message. Then further, a devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore it is said that he has no enemy, nirvara. How is this? So there are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading of Krishna consciousness. Actually, Jesus Christ was preaching Krishna consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada said. I'm coming from a Christian background, but what attracted me to to Krishna consciousness. First, Srila Prabhupada explains he explains the Trinity in the Christian teachings. Who knows the Trinity in Christian teachings? No? There's God the Father. The Son is Jesus Christ. And there is the Holy Spirit. So in Krishna consciousness terms, is God the Father, is Krishna. His Son, we are all sons of Krishna, the Jivas. And there is the Holy Spirit, Paramatma. That explains the Trinity in Christianity. It's the same. The same. And if you go deeper in the Bible, it said, Adam and Eve, they were eating the forbidden fruit and became entangled and lost their eternity. That's what happened with us. What is this forbidden fruit? Thinking that the fruits are for me and this is mine. And then you fall in the material world because it belongs to Krishna. And you become entangled. The same thing is explained anyway, yeah.
Christian mean when they say Holy Spirit, what do you mean?
There are different concepts. The Holy Spirit that comes from after Jesus Christ was crucified. Then after that, he appeared 40 days later to his disciples. 40 days later. And they were hiding in a place, and he appeared for them, and he made them enlightened with the Holy Spirit. He gave them realizations to the heart, and they became all ecstatic. And they got a spirit of, they became fearless at that moment. And they went out for preaching. So Christian, by the mercy of Jesus Christ, they got realization and started to preach that so yes, that's the Holy Spirit. That the concept is a bit different than the Vedic concept.
I read the Armenian Gospel of Lord Jesus Christ, that it mentions that Jesus Christ went to Jagannath.
Yeah, that this is a theory. That because the problem is in the Bible between his age 11 until 24 when he started to appear in public. There's no mention of anything in the Bible. It is said that during that time he was going to the commerce route, trade routes, yeah, to through the Himalayas to Nepal, down to India, Jagannath Puri. But then in Jagannath Puri, he was criticizing the pandas there for being overly ritualistic. Only see the rituals, but not love of God. And this is what he did also when he came back. He criticized the Pharisean. The Pharisean were very strict Jews. And Jews, they follow all the rules and regulations. So many rules and regulations. So Jesus Christ, according to the Jews, on Sabbath, the Saturday, you cannot work, do anything. That's a rest day of God. You have to rest. You cannot cook, nothing. They cook the day before. So they do nothing. They don't work. And Jesus Christ, of on that Saturday, in a public place, there was a leper, and he could not walk. And just by touching him, he cured him. And he stood up and he could walk. That came into the public. And the Pharisees, they ordered to arrest Jesus Christ because he has cured this man on a Sabbath. On a Sabbath, you cannot work. And they arrested him. So he was criticizing this for all these rules, but not seeing the purpose, love of God. Anyway, he was crucified at the end, but his teachings are in line with the teachings of Prabhupada, but he did not say everything, because the people were not ready for it. He says that when he was on the cross, that I spoke, but only for that which they were ready to accept. That preaching according to the circumstances. Anyway, yeah.
When I say, as you said, God and Trinity, right? But they always accept only the Jesus is the Son.
Yeah.
In ours, we are.
Yeah, but there are two things here. Jesus Christ was a pure devotee. So he had a special position as a pure devotee. He was a representative of God. But we do not accept that he's the only Son of God. We are all sons of God, but he was special. That he was special, and of course, through him, one can get liberation if one follows the Guru Parampara, but there is no Guru Parampara after Jesus Christ. And that is a weakness. And therefore they deviated that when they came a few centuries later, then the fifth commandment, yes, you shall not kill. They changed it in you shall not murder. And yeah, that made Christianism very popular. That because you could eat what you wanted, and it spread like wildfire after that. But it lost its purity. But there are certain practitioners in Christianism who are still pure, and thus the followers of Saint Franciscus from Assisi. They are vegetarians, and they see God in everyone, in the moon, in the plants, everywhere they see God. And when Srila Prabhupada visited them in Australia, the first Franciscaner, he said, you are also Vaishnavas, he said. He appreciated them. So they are close to us. But that's a really minority. That all the other Christians, they are puffed up. They think Krishna died for our sins. That thank you, but you have to reform your heart. You have to purify your heart. That if they follow Jesus Christ and it's the only way, okay. But are they becoming pure? Are they understanding they are not his body? That they have no knowledge. That's the problem. But Jesus Christ gave this knowledge. It's in Bhagavad Gita. He says clearly one who works for the body, and that one who works for things in this world, but who is not interested in his own soul. What profited a man to gain the whole world if one loses one's own soul? These teachings are there, but I read Bhagavad Gita, and then I read the New Testament again, and all these teachings are there, but they are just interpreting it in their own way. And by that, it's lost. It's all speculation. That's the problem. But no need to tell them. These Christians, we don't preach to them. They don't want to be instructed by us. So don't instruct them. Rather preach by your example, by, like Krishna says, by acting in a detached way. That and they will appreciate your character. And don't speak with them about these things. Useless. Okay. Good. Further, a devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said that he has no enemy. Nirvarai. How is this? So there are many examples in history of devotees who risked their life for spreading Krishna consciousness. And Jesus Christ and Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. At the end, in summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time which abhors everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus is the origin of all these manifestations. At the end, in the Brahma Samhita, it stated that those who are attached to the Syama Sundar form of Krishna, in love and devotion, can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. So that is the purpose of the 11th chapter. That the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. So, in summary, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to convince his fallen parts and parcels to go back to Godhead and give them the directions how to do so. The essence of these instructions is to engage in devotional service, free from karma and jnana. A devotee does not associate with non-devotees, but he does approach them, even at great risk, to offer them the chance to become Krishna conscious. Therefore, he is guaranteed entrance in the supreme planet after leaving his body. So the universal form, it's a temporary manifestation, as been shown by Krishna, and his four-armed form he has shown, and then his original two-armed form. So that's, we can see here this verse 55, I will read it again. That's practically a definition of Anya Bilasta Sunyam, pure bhakti. My dear Arjun, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruit activities, only to please Krishna, without karma and jnana, without wanting liberation, without wanting enjoyment in this world. So free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he works for me, working for Krishna favorably, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, that, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So this process can, we have, Srila Prabhupada has 6 paragraphs in the purport. In one, in the first paragraph, he summarizes the process of devotional service. And then he speaks about Krishna karma, working for Krishna, and then he speaks about mat parama, making Krishna the goal of your life, and sangha bharshita, associate with devotees, and then be friendly to everyone. And then Prabhupada gave at the end a summary of the chapter. So we should understand that the following points: the importance of Krishna's beauty, that in preaching application, that someone will say Krishna is one of the 10 incarnations, 10 avatars of Vishnu. But here it said, no, Krishna is the source of all these incarnations. That the preaching of this chapter can also be used against Paul's incarnations. That and to show that Krishna is not an ordinary person. He can show his universal form and his 400 form. That so it stresses also the importance of the personal form. We meditate on the personal form of Krishna. That's much more easier than the impersonal process. And that Krishna is a supreme form and Bhakti is supreme. That is, But also this chapter, Prabhupada has spoken about this mood and mission, that this mood and mission is especially in this last verse, that Srila Prabhupada wants everyone to become engaged in pure devotional service. That is his mission. But that is the 11th chapter. Any questions, comments? Okay, then, yes.
It's like saying that showing this form first time. But there were some occasions where it shows where it.
Yeah. So Krishna says, "O Arjuna, this form I've never shown before." So this particular form has never been shown before. It's different, we read in the purport, than the form shown to Duryodhana. It's a different form. But this form has never been shown. And it's very particular because in this form, Krishna shows Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, eaten by this. It's horrible. But yes, it's unique. Good. Thank you very much. Yes?
Before chapter, mentioned that one. So every time there is no universal.
At that time, there was.
Universal.
Yeah, this universal form, we must understand, is not just something which is now there. No, Krishna created this universal form to show to Arjuna. He put everything in one place. That's not a normal situation, this ekastam. That normally you cannot see everything in one place. But he saw everything in one place. So he showed it as such that with these divine eyes that one could see everything in one place. But the Virat Roop, which is described in the second canto, first chapter, is different. These are the planetary systems that and Krishna compares different parts, like Brahma's Satyaloka is the hair on his head, and and Janaloka, Maraloka, Tapaloka is his space, and the middle planetary systems, the Earth is the belly, and Rasatal, Palatal are his feet. But it's said there, this is an imaginary form, but it is described as such to help the atheist to look at the universe as a person, as God, and that will purify them if they accept that. So that's the idea. So this universal form is an imaginary form, and Krishna can show it every moment by his mystic power if Krishna wants. But it's not available every moment. Krishna must show it. There is the Virat Rupa, the normal form. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hi, Krishna. So at the therapy of Kurukshetra, Krishna spoke on the Gita to Arjuna. So only he can see the divine form, or everyone get the opportunity to see the form?
That this universal form,
Yes.
that it was seen, who could see it? It was Arjuna, to whom he showed it. The demigods, because they have divine eyes also, they could see it. And all the devotees in the disciplic succession from Vyas, they could also see it by the mercy of Vyas. And that was it. All the others, because Krishna was on the battlefield, nobody could see them on the battlefield. But, only those.
The time just paused when he spoke Bhagavad Gita.
Probably.
The time just paused when he spoke Bhagavad Gita for 45 minutes to Arjuna.
No, the time did not pause. No. He showed this universal form from the chariot, and only on the battlefield, only Arjuna could see it. And the others were wondering what are they doing there in the middle of that?
So like, did they still
They could not see.
They could not see, even though they're devotee of the Lord.
Yeah, they could not see.
And also mention that the yakshas, they see, right? And then they all, out of fear, they just, did they see?
I don't know if they are demigods, they could see, but anyway, I don't know the access. Could be. But demigods means those who are in the mode of goodness, and the yakshas, I don't think they are in the mode of goodness.
And the last question is, once he spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, so Arjuna got this message, who did he pass it to, according to the descending process?
It didn't go further.
Huh?
It didn't go further.
Did it go further?
No. It stopped. Yeah. Yeah, that it was not continued. But, okay, good. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, he wrote Mahabharata, and Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. Right. Thank you. No one.
So we lost.
That parampara did not continue. But this is not our parampara. Arjuna is not our parampara. Nee, it's the Brahma, comes down from Brahma to Narada, Narada, Vyas, Madhvacharya, and so it came down to Ishvara Puri, to Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, then Lord Chaitanya. We have Krishna twice in our Guru Parampara. in the beginning and then in the middle. And then it comes down further to Prabhupada to us. That's not our Guru Parampara. This is the, Arjuna is not in our Guru Parampara. Good, thank you. So we will reconvene at 8:20. Thank you. So we will continue with chapter 12. Chapter 12, text 1. Chapter 12 is entitled Devotional Service. Mahjana Timandasya Chanansalaslaka Sexual Militamina Tasmai Spuravenama. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Mate Bhakti Vinanta Swami Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskatya Tasatane Srila Prabhupada Ki. So Arjuna has seen this universal form, and the entire chapter showed that Arjuna is attracted to Krishna's personal form. So, but then he's remembering this jnanis. Krishna spoke about the jnanis in the second chapter, and we will speak more about them in the following chapters. The jnani, their process is to study Vedanta and to renounce everything. But here Krishna at the end of the 11th chapter gives the process of devotional service. And he thinks, yes, I'm a devotee. So what is superior, devotional service or this jnanis will renounce? He wants to confirm his own position as a devotee. So Arjuna is asking a question. Arjuna uvacha evam sattayuktaye bhaktaspam payapaste yeshapaksham abhyaktam tesham keyoga vitama. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So Arjuna wants to confirm his position as a devotee. So he's asking which process is superior, the process of devotional service, personalism, or impersonalism. But practically every chapter of Bhagavad Gita directs one to become attached to the personal form of Krishna. And that's the highest spiritual realization. We have a quote of Prabhupada here. The impersonalists think of the absolute personality of God in two different ways. On the other hand, they worship the Lord in his Vishvarup, or all-pervading universal form. And on the other, they think of the Lord's unmanifested, indescribable, subtle form. These are the impersonalists. The theories of pantheism and monism are respectively applicable to these two conceptions of the Supreme as gross and subtle, but both of them are rejected by the learned, pure devotees of the Lord. It's from the 10th chapter of the second canto. That in the purport, that this is in the purport in the first paragraph. That the personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman. the unmanifested. Many meditation on something impersonal, the void. So this Krishna is going to confirm Bhakti Yoga is the highest. Krishna indicates that in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service to him, is the highest of all. It is the most and direct. It's the easiest method for association with the Godhead. And then at the end of the next paragraph. So in practically every chapter of the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna. That is the highest spiritual realization. So Arjuna wants to know, is my position as a devotee secure? And in the next chapter, in the next verse, Krishna will immediately say the position of a devotee superior. Shri Bhagavan Vachhamayas Mayavisya Manoyamam Nitya Yukta Pashte Shradya Payopitas Teme Yukta Tamamata. Supreme Personality of God said, those who fix their mind on my personal form and are always engaged in worship be with great faith, and great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. That in the Bible, Srila Prabhupada says just this, the devotee is most perfect because he's always in samadhi, engaged in my devotional service. His mind is always concentrated on me. So Krishna clearly says that the second point line of the purport, that Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is considered to be most perfect in yoga. Yeah. So in the next verse, that's Krishna speaks about those who do not worship Krishna's personal form. Verses 3 and 4. So we have heard before, Krishna says, Bhaunam Jnanamante Jnanamama Papachate, Pasdev Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlabha. Such jnanis, after many, many births, they come to the conclusion, Vasudev, Krishna is everything. And then they surrender to Krishna. After many, many births, so that takes a long time, that process, and that is described here. Yet Paksha Manirdesyam Avyaktam Paripasi Sarvatracham Asintyam Sakutastam Achalam Rubam. Sanyam Yandayaha Man Sarvatra Sama Buddha Ya Te Prapnavanti Mami Va Sarva Buddha Hiterata. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. In the beginning of the purport, those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, see Krishna, after many births. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is it all. That's the verse, Bhaunam Jnananam Te Vas. Yeah, Jnana Pama Pabachate Vasdev Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlabha. That this is verse the verse spoken, Krishna speaks about 7th chapter, 7:14, 7:15, 4 kinds who surrender to me. No, in the best is the Jnani. Then in 7:19 he speaks this verse. Paranam Jnana Paranam. I think it's 7:19. So they have to realize that the soul, they want to realize the soul who is equal in all bodies. And for that, the Jnanis must stop their sensual activities, that they have to redraw their senses. And such an indirect process is very troublesome, will Krishna say in the next verse, and it takes many, many lives of practice before one can surrender to Krishna. So therefore, it's not the best process for sure. And it's troublesome, klesha. That Krishna explains in the next verse. Klesho dikataste samabhyakta sakta sheta samabhyakta ikatirtukam deavat pirabapyate. For those whose mind are attached to the unmanifested impersonal features, to the supreme advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. You can try, we can do an exercise trying to empty our mind, everything out. Good luck. take some time. Srila Prabhupada he gives quite a long purport on this verse that I will read the most important sections. First, the group of transcendentalists will follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, are called jnana yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engaged in the devotional service of the Lord are called Bhakti yogis. Question for your exam. But explain the difference between the Bhakti yogis and the jnana yogis. You just have to quote what I just said, the first part of the purport here. And then the process of jnana yoga here, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the power of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in the direct service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and it's natural for the embodied soul. Why is it natural? Because it's natural for everyone to serve, because that's our constitutional position. But we have to serve, just redirect all our service to serving Krishna. Then Srila Prabhupada speaks about Saguna and Nirguna, that's worship of the deity in the temple is Saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities, but the form of the Lord should, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada explains the analogy of the mailbox, that if you put a letter in a mailbox, official mailbox with an official stamp on it, then it will reach its destination. So the deity is like a mailbox, official. When we worship Krishna in his deity form, then we are connecting with Krishna officially. That we are connecting with Krishna, like in the same way. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigra. So that's a good question for your exam. Explain the analogy of the mailbox in relation to deity worship. That a person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service, this is midway the purport. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisance unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth. So it's a risky path. That the path of devotional service, sure, it's guided. Krishna says, Ananta Sintyantyam Yechna Parapasya Desam Nitya Prayuktam Yoga Ksema Famyam. I give my devotee what he needs and I protect him. I give him further guidance personally. So that's more easy. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. So Arjuna is still thinking, yeah, okay, I'm a devotee, but if Krishna is saying, if you want to become a beggar, a jnani like before, and not fight, that so he's telling him, if don't do it, it's not a good process. At that time, long practice in personalism also becomes a source of trouble. You see that many times. Some come to Krishna consciousness, but before they had an impersonal practice. And they cannot give up that idea that the absolute truth is impersonal. And it becomes troublesome to give it up. That if one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is danger of turning to atheism. Yeah, that's certainly. So Krishna says, Prabhupada makes two main points here in the purport. Impersonal practice is difficult. And he makes the point devotional service is easy. He explains why the impersonal practice is difficult. It's difficult in practice and realization because it's against the living entity's blissful self. We are Ananda, full of bliss in our constitutional position. That's what we want. But then you must give up everything. That's certainly not blissful. So that impersonalists, they must study the Vedic literature such as the Upanishads. Most Upanishads stress the impersonal feature of the Lord. She Upanishad is different, which you will discuss. That discusses the personal form of the Lord. And it's not easy to understand this Upanishads. You will see the Shes Upanishad. It's enigmatic, puzzling, difficult to understand. Because you will learn the Shes Upanishad in 3 verses makes a difference between avidya and vidya. But avidya and vidya has a different meaning in every verse. It's puzzling. You must know really what is behind. But that will all be explained. They have to understand the non-perceptual feelings. Good luck. No idea what it is. And theoretically understand that one is not a body. with the risk that one may not realize the absolute at the end. Very risky path. But the devotee is easy. He engages his senses in spiritual activities. He offers offerings to the deity. He's hearing about Krishna. He's eating prasad, and he can easily make advancement without the trouble of not realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a quote, I think. Quote. Yeah. That's all these different ways of determining the ultimate goal of life are compared to rivers. Krishna is the ocean. As the rivers flow down towards the ocean, all attempts for knowledge flow towards Krishna. After many births of endeavor, when one actually comes to Krishna, he attains the perfectional stage. Yeah, we read that, but I wanted to read the next one. 6, 7, sorry. Those who are truly vipachit, learned, and those who have reached the platform of understanding and observing the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any condition of life. Prenmanja Triti Bhakti Vilochanana Sandasa Deva Hridayeshi Vilokayanti. So learned devotees accept every condition of distress as representing the presence of the Supreme Lord. This is a comment on the next two verses, which describes the process of devotional service. When a devotee is in distress, he sees that the Lord has appeared as distress just to relieve or purify the devotee from the contamination of the material world. So that's how devotees see distress. While one is within the material world, one is in various conditions, and that therefore devotee sees a condition of distress as but another feature of the Lord. The devotee therefore regards distress as a great favor of the Lord because he understands that he's being cleansed of contamination. So that's the important point. How does the devotee see distress in his devotional service? It's Krishna's mercy to purify him, and he's happy for that, thankful. And then a devotee regards distress as a great favor of the Lord because he understands that he's being cleansed of contamination. The appearance of distress is a negative process intended to give the devotee relief from this material world, which is called mrityu samsara, or the constant repetition of birth and death. To save a surrendered soul from repeated birth and death, the Lord purifies him of contamination by offering a little distress. This cannot be understood by a non-devotee, but the devotee can see this because he is vipachit, or learned. A non-devotee therefore is perturbed in distress, but a devotee welcomes distress as another feature of the Lord. Sarvankal Vidam Brahma. A devotee can actually see that there is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no second entity. Ekam edat evat vitivyam. There is only the Lord who presents himself in different energies. So that's a commentary of the next verse, the last verse for this section, which will describe the process of devotional service. Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara ananyane yogena mam dhayanta upashate teshamam samudahta mrityu samsara sagrat Bhavanina charaparta maya vashita svetasham. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pita, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. that so here Krishna says, and that's very nice. Krishna says, I take responsibility for a devotee who sacrifices everything for his pleasure in devotional service. So Krishna takes responsibility. But the condition, sacrifice everything for him in devotional service. Sacrifice. Riding on Garuda, Krishna swiftly delivers the devotee from the ocean of material existence. Therefore, a devotee need not endeavor for personal salvation, but simply engage in devotional service and depend on Krishna. So that so it's different. And this difference is stressed by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. I will read here and there a line. His duty is to render service to the Lord, and if he does not, then he will render service to Maya. And there's really nothing between. You serve Krishna or you serve Maya. There's nothing between. It's our choice. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the process is very simple. One can devote himself in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul of whatever planet they like by the yoga process. And others take the opportunity in various ways, but as far as a devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated that the Lord himself takes him. So you have that picture where Vishnu is on Garuda, and there is a devotee in the ocean, and he comes down and takes the devotee at his sikha and lifts him out of the ocean of material distress and material ocean. So Krishna comes and takes the devotee. The devotee does not wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. Further, he clearly states that he himself will become the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. So the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. So the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna say, and Srila Prabhupada quotes, Sarvadharam Parityam Mamkam Saram Pancham Tvam Sarvapavya Mukshishyam Achcham. One should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So yes, Krishna takes responsibility for his devotee. It is completely different than in the previous verse, Klesha Dikatrastis Yam. Those who worship Krishna, and then they want to achieve impersonal realization. What did Krishna say about that? In the 9th chapter, of Avajanti Mamuna, Manushim Tam Ashrita. And then in the next verse, he said, whatever they want to achieve is baffled. That, but the devotee, he experiences also troubles on the path of devotional service, and he must follow the rules and regulations and so on. But his misery is reduced, and because he experienced Krishna's presence, that's the difference. That so impersonalists, certainly Krishna does not recommend it. and to a certain extent it is condemned. Avajanti Mamuda, that 9/11, that so that Krishna Srila Prabhupada also compares the two paths in the purport. Krishna consciousness is easy. The deities as a mailbox to connect with Krishna. Chanting is different, easy. The honoring prasad is easy. So this gives us arguments to preach and to explain how bhakti is, the personal path is higher than the impersonal. And what are the defects of impersonalism? What are the advantages of personalism? And it's easy because by the grace of Krishna, Krishna will bring us back to the spiritual world. And we have a great example of someone who has completely surrendered to Krishna, sacrificed everything for Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. If we follow in his footsteps, then Krishna will save us. Riding on Garuda, he will deliver his devotee from material existence. So that's the introduction of chapter 12. Any questions, comments? Yes.
Maharaj, is there any example of a Jnana yogi achieving Bhakti?
There are examples of jnana yogis becoming a devotee and then achieving Krishna. Directly, no. You have to become a bhakta. Yeah. It's after many, many births they become a devotee. So why going through all this trouble? Become a devotee in the first place.
Even Atmaramas have to get attracted to the Krishna's quality.
Yeah, and that shows that bhakti is superior because they don't have any material desire. Still, they become attracted to something. They must be higher pleasure. We see also Sukadeva Goswami was in the beginning an impersonalist and he became attracted. But he was a Brahmavadi and he became attracted by hearing about Krishna because he was not offensive, not avajananti mamuda. And by that he became a devotee. But he was different than us because he was already liberated. He became immediately a pure devotee because the heart was already pure. That's the difference. Yes. Yeah. How Ambarish Maharaj went back to Godhead at the end of his life. Certainly he went back to Godhead, but I don't know their circumstances. I never read it in the. Yes.
I want to ask you about the previous chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that the Pandavas, the others couldn't see the form. Can you know why? Is it because they didn't surrender?
Say that again.
About the previous chapter, when it was a form. Earlier you mentioned that the brothers, Pandavas' brother, I think Arjuna's brother couldn't see the form. Is it because they didn't surrender to Krishna? Like, are you a disciple? This instruction, they didn't surrender, that is why?
Well, they were not in the categories mentioned. What were the categories? The demigods could see them. They could see them. And also those in the disciplic succession of Vyasadeva could see him. And Arjuna could see the universal form. But it may not have been practical because after the Battle of Kurukshetra, there are no signs that that Yudhishthira Maharaj says to Arjuna, I've seen this universal form. No, he did not see. He was part on the battlefield. It would probably not have been so practical.
Last thing is, when Arjuna sees this divine form, the beautiful form and the fierce form of Krishna, why he didn't go back and tell to his brother, I see this, Krishna show me that, Krishna see this. Maybe Prabhu said that if he see this form, he definitely will go home and tell to his wife. Why Arjuna just want to keep it in himself? Because this is, you want to keep it in your heart, you want to secret.
We may not forget Krishna. Arjuna is a pure devotee. He was brought into illusion to ask these questions. But before when they were in exile, that Krishna visited the Pandavas, and from that from the Mahabharata it appears that they all knew Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee does not need to be convinced of that by seeing a universal form, which is material, which they don't want to see. For Arjuna, this was horrible. Why should he speak with the Pandavas about that? Why do they need to hear that? They are already pure devotees. They are already on the higher platform. The universal form is there for those who are not devotees to convince Krishna, to convince them that Krishna is God. That's the reason why Arjuna is asking that. Not for he knows the pure devotees are not interested in these things. They don't need to be convinced. They knew Krishna was God. And they never complained. When Krishna visited them in exile, they never complained about anything. They knew we are just a servant of Krishna. And whatever situation Krishna put them in, they accepted.
I think it's very nice that Arjuna can tell people, hey, you know what? My best friend is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know, and Mother Kunti is just like, hey, you know, my nephew is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like, you know, like nobody has this chance.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to say that. They have realized Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their heart. They don't need to hear that. That's not interesting news for them. They don't want to hear this godless display of opulence. It's horrible. So a devotee is not interested in it. And Arjuna was also not interested. So why would he speak about that to other devotees, pure devotees? No. Okay. Good. Then we will continue with chapter 12 at noontime. That and finish the chapter, and this evening go to chapter 13. Okay. Thank you very much. That Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.